Today we're doing a live episode and we have a very special guest. His name is Justin Tao from Creative Design and Maintenance. They're in New Jersey. I'm going to check my notes for all the counties that they serve. Monmouth, Middlesex, Ocean County, New Jersey. Justin's the president of Creative Design and Maintenance. They were founded in 2008. He's a TechnoPro contractor. He's a CMHA certified paver and wall installer. He has a bachelor's of science in landscape architecture with a minor in business. So we're going to talk about how he built his business from when he was basically a kid to several $1 million now, where his average project is a few $100,000, and he pumps out a dozen to 20 of those per year. So very excited to have him on the show. How about a big round of applause for Justin Tao? All right.
You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up.
Welcome to the stage.
Thanks for having me as part of your podcast today.
Yeah, no problem. I'll let you grab a seat there. Okay, so I kind of did the rap sheet on who you are and where you're from, but why don't you tell me your version of how you got started in the business in the first place?
So we do still have maintenance in our company name. I did start out as a maintenance company in middle school, high school, pretty much just doing lawn mowing, trimming bushes. It eventually had moved into planting installations, slowly moved into patio inquiries, which was a very big jump because I was about 16, 17 at the time, didn't even have a driver's license. And I kept the maintenance going. We started doing a few patios here and there, Parisian 6x6, 6x9, very basic. And when I had gone off to college, I pretty much switched over from a biology major to a landscape architect major, and we started doing slowly projects here and there. I was mainly on weekends, and we started really moving into hardscaping as my main focus. I ended up realizing I liked it. My freshman year of college, I switched from a biology major to landscape architect major, which is in Rutgers, New Brunswick, which is somewhat close to home here. And once I went on to graduate, we pretty much focused our company into the design build and majorly focusing on backyards, front yards. Pretty much started out in adult community homes. We were doing about 200 installations per year, very small. You're talking a 100 square foot walkway, 10 by 15, 15 by 20
cookie
patio.
cutter projects where you're in and out.
In and out, yeah. Maybe a project is lasting 2-3 days. We were doing 200 of them a year. And it's pretty exhausting. We were literally having paver deliveries multiple times a week to multiple jobs. And that slowly began to progress into larger projects. Basically, our clients were impressed with our communication, which we're very big on. They were liking our reliability, our follow-up. I think those are some of the most important things that we overlook, one of them being communication. So our office, which is a staff of 5 to 6 people full-time, are constantly updating our clients, including myself. They know when we're getting deliveries, where we stand out with permits, when there's an inspection, and I do provide end-of-date updates to every one of our projects. So if you did not get an update from myself or our foreman on your site, you're getting an email to tell you, hey, we accomplished such and such today, tomorrow we're moving on to this step. And I think that's something that we overlook as far as knowing where we are on the project status from a homeowner standpoint, because we're driving there every day. We know what's going on. They're busy raising their children, going to work, and it makes the project much more interesting for them to kind of know what's going on.
So you said a lot there, so I'm going to back us up a little bit. When you're running the crews and you're doing 200 of those adult community backyards a year, and like you said, receiving multiple deliveries of product per day to just feed all these different job sites. You say communication is a big key. We'll talk about communication with the clients next, but first, communication within your own company, within your crews, just keeping tabs on the one job that's going on can be challenging. So how did you, because this is several years ago, right?
Yes,
so
about
how
5
old were
to
you
7
then?
years ago. We do have everything very digitized. Find a software that works for you. We use Arbor Gold. You know, there's plenty of options out there.
Yeah.
That's probably not a good software for most people. We customized it, but our day-to-day is all very digital and transparent. We have, you know, scheduling systems that we see when a delivery is taking place on the day, inspection, what crew is on what site, and that's we have a digital calendar system that works very well for us, and we're constantly updating it, and we go in and we note, you know, if the client was notified, and we check that at the end of the day. So it's really about teamwork within your office, within your crews, so that everyone's on the same page as far as what's going on.
So how did you go from, you're just getting started in hardscapes, to get to that point of the 200 projects a year? Like, at what point does the systemization and the digitization of everything going on in your business, at what point does that happen in the history of the company?
It happened over the course of about 3 years. Roughly 5 to 7 years ago, and basically
so you had been in business for about 10 years at that point.
Since 2008, but that was maintenance. So
Yeah,
I would really say we kicked off hardscaping in 2016. Again, I was in my 20s, so I'm pulling up to some houses and they're like, there's no way we're going to hire him. He's a kid.
Yeah.
So you know, that was a challenge, but we basically made a production line of our company for patios and for landscaping, and we made a very clean system of, you know, meeting, estimating, designing, all for free, which is no longer the case today. But we had a good system of meeting, estimating, designing, getting your homeowner's approval from your association, getting your township permits, and we're able to do it so efficiently that it led to clients wanting to use us partially for our efficiency and communication, and a big part of it, obviously, you know, quality and the longevity. So we made a production line.
So tell me about how you did that, because I think it's easy to do that when, well, easy's in air quotes there, but easy to do when you're doing every step of the production line. But when you're trying to build a company, you're still young, you have a limited amount of experience, you're pretty much fresh out of school trying to figure out how to do this, and you have a bunch of employees, you have a bunch of teammates that you're trying to get on board with this production line. What were the steps to get you to have that I assume well-documented process that everyone can just follow the bouncing ball? Because that's what allowed you to scale to the point that you're at today, right?
Yeah. So checklists are everything. We have a process. As soon as we get a call, we have a checklist that sticks with each client. It's kind of like a portfolio, and it'll, you know, spell out, you know, consultation was set, estimate was provided, estimate was followed up, design was provided, design was followed up, and so on. So checklists are important because regardless if you're dealing with 20 clients, 100 clients, you're not going to remember everything. You have to have a way of, you know, a database, whether it's on the computer or on paper or job folders. So we did find that having, you know, a collection of information for each client, each inquiry, even if it didn't go anywhere, at least we can, you know, reflect back on why didn't it go somewhere, or we'll get that call back in a year. So it's a lot about organizing and making a very thorough and simple process that's going to work for you, and then delegating it to your staff. So, you know, our office manager handles the contracting process. Our administrative assistant handles the onboarding and taking the call and, you know, weeding out the client. And we have our billing department. We have our design department. So, you know, by making different departments and delegating different tasks to different people, that is something that you have to do if you want to scale your growth.
I think the big thing, though, is before you even get to that point of having defined departments, you can still have departments in terms of like the roles.
Correct.
Without necessarily hiring the people if you're not there yet. But the key in every success story of every contractor I've spoken to that's brought their business to a point where they're able to grow it at a pace that they're in control of while maintaining the profit margins that they want to have consistently is exactly what you said, in the form of having checklists and having a process that they follow diligently every time. Every call, every email, every time a shovel goes in the ground, every step from cradle to grave of a project is process, and we follow it. And by doing that, it allows you to hire people, and then you put them right into the process. Just follow the steps. Step 1 is this,
100%.
step 2 is this. I'll show you the first time, we'll do it together, then you'll do it on your own, I'll check in, and then by the third, fourth time, well, you got it. Now it's just gaining experience.
100%. So I would say, touching on that, the consistency is key. You're going to find something that works for you, create the process, and follow it, and make revisions to it as time goes on, and as you see, things that you need to change or factor in. But if you don't have a very simple, clean, standardized process, you're basically just taking a call, writing down someone's name, and going for an estimate, and you're not factoring in, well, where did they hear from you? Where did they hear about you? What's their budget? What's their timeline? Otherwise, you're basically just driving around aimlessly, which is what I did for many years. So it's not like that process started right away. It's something that we are still growing on, and we still add steps to the process. But you do need consistency on how you're onboarding your clients, where you're getting your clients from, and so on.
Do you have any tips on how to create that process? Because it feels like a daunting task even if I think about some of the processes that I've had to document or still have to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really want to do it because there's so many steps and they're all in my head, and I just do half the things naturally. So
for instance, taking on a client for consultation, it starts with a call to our office. We find out where they're located, confirm we serve their area for installations. If we don't serve them for installations, we may offer them our design remote process, because that's become popular for us and we're building on that. We find out how they heard about us, because we want to know what forms of our marketing are working better than others. We find out what their project entails. When you go to someone's house, the worst thing you can say is, so what are we here for? The more detail you can have, the better you're going to look when you know they want a pool and coping and a patio and a kitchen and a fire pit. And we gather all that information. We give them an idea, and this could be a 15-20 minute call with our office, just to really screen them out, because a 15-20 minute call may save me 3 hours of driving, meeting someone, and driving back that should have not taken place. So in our screening call, we do give some preliminary budget figures, not to turn our clients off so that they'll say, wow, it's really expensive, but to give them some realistic ideas. So if someone asks, we get calls for just a kitchen bar island. Well, that's not going to be less than $20,000. We're going to tell them it's going to probably start in a $20,000 to $30,000 range by the time we incorporate your granite, your electrical outlets, your Kichler undercap lighting, your gas line, your appliances, building the actual structure. And a lot of times people say, wow, I thought it was only going to be like $7,000 to $10,000. Well, guess what? Your blaze grill and your granite are more than $7,000 to $10,000 right there. This was not a project for us to build, and we kindly decline it. Or they'll say, okay, some of those ranges are what we had in mind, and at that point we'll basically move into a design option quote, which will be a design consultation, which we charge for. We are crediting the design to the project going forward. And again, this is something we're working on and learning, and it's new. I did give out free estimates and free designs for probably most of my time in business, and you're wasting a lot of time. So
how did you come to that conclusion?
Wasting a lot of time.
But
If you take a look,
how do you define wasting a lot of time?
Look at how many estimates you're going to over the course of a month, and how many estimates you've given in that time, how many designs you've given in that time, and how many have actually contracted. And you'll probably find that more than half of those, depending on your volume, are not taking your bid and handing off your design to someone else or handing off your proposal to someone else. And is it being done the same way? Absolutely not, but that's the way the business goes. So what we've done as a soft transition is we will credit your design to your project, so that if you're serious about using us, I mean, we have enough social media for you to look at, website, house page, and so on. If you like what you're seeing, you like our reviews, and you're happy with what the work looks like and some of the preliminary budgets, then go forward with the design. It'll be credited to your project going forward. We offer multiple revisions and so on. So even if you don't go with us, well, now you have a nice design to hand off to someone else that we charged you for.
So basically, you came to the conclusion that you were wasting time by looking at your close rate or your win rate. How many quotes have I put out, or how many designs have I put out? How many have actually turned into a signed contract with a deposit in hand?
Correct. You're losing a lot of money. You're driving, you're spending time. In our case, we have a design department, so
you have overhead on top of it
Correct.
that you're not recovering as
Correct.
a result. What did that win rate or that close rate look like before you started charging for estimates? I'm trying to get a beat on like what
to
the
be
trend,
honest,
what the
it's
change.
not any different, because the people who are hiring us are the same people who would have paid for a design. So I'm not going to say that we're winning more jobs or losing more, because you have your clientele.
As a percentage of the incoming calls, though, you must see a difference. If
We turn down probably half the calls.
there you go. Okay.
Because we are running a lot of Facebook ads, we're running a lot of Instagram ads, and people are looking at yards that are a few $100,000 and thinking they're $30,000 or $50,000, and that's, you know, the cost of maybe one of those elements on the project, like a pergola or a pavilion. So you need to know when to use it. It's not something that I would say, hey, wake up tomorrow and start charging for all your designs. This is something that for us has been years in the making, and you need to know when to use it. I mean, the owner of our porta potty company called us for a design and an estimate. We've been working with him for 7 years. We have 8 portable units from him. I'm not going to say, hey, it's $2,000 for a design meeting. He's, you know,
well, that's
you
a
have to know when to
relationship.
use it.
Yeah,
It's a relationship. If you just did a project for someone and their brother wants to use you, and you know it's a reliable source because they know where the numbers are, so, you know, there's ways to bend it. I'm not going to say...
Because there's more security in the fact that you're very likely to win the job.
Correct.
The risk is less, therefore you're willing to compromise on that design fee.
Absolutely. So you have to know when and where to use it, but the random call you're getting that hasn't seen your work, doesn't have a reference, is just, you know, went by online, you might be, you know, better off screening them a little bit deeper.
Why do you credit back the design fee? Why do you feel that's important?
Well, for right now, again, it was a big jump to go from free estimates and, you know, design handoffs.
It was only a big jump for you, though. It's not a big jump for a customer who's never called you before. They don't know any different,
but for
right?
us, it's just a change in our process. And there's a fear on our end of, we don't want to deter you by saying we're going to just charge you and not credit. Will I say that in the coming years, very soon, we're going to eliminate that 100%? Because if I go to build a house and meet with an architect, I'm getting professional architect opinion and design and implementing it in the construction. So in the landscape industry, if I am paying someone, whether it's the landscaper, whether it's their designer, to put together a design, it probably should be part of the project cost, just as permits are, just as engineering is.
That's it.
So it is something that we will transition in the very near future, but again, it's just so new to us that there's a fear.
Well, I like at least you admit that it's a fear-based,
It's the
because there's
fear,
no rational
100%.
reason. Like
That's
if
the
it has
only reason.
value, and like you just said, it's critical to executing the project,
It
why are you
should be
giving
a
it away? Because ultimately,
100%.
if you're crediting it, you're still giving it
Yes.
away. All
So
you're
it's
doing
a
is
fear.
just adding one little hurdle. So hopefully sooner rather than
change
later.
it.
Yeah. if we talk about pricing though, because it's easy for me to say that because I'm not the one fighting for the jobs, right? But if we take that topic and we go to pricing, what have you seen recently in terms of pricing for projects, and what's maybe your approach to having the pricing conversation with a client? Because that fear is, whether we want to admit or not, it is real. Like you've sunk time and money into marketing your business, into getting your name out there, into fielding the calls, screening the customer. Now you're presenting a price after doing all the other steps. What's your approach to getting that pricing on the table and
so we softly present it. One of the first stages of our onboarding is we do give like a preliminary estimate to accompany the design so that they have an idea of what some of the ranges are for what they're asking for, because that's going to influence, all right, well, maybe we are not going to do the pavilion, or maybe we're not going to do the fire pit, or we'll do wood burning because we don't want to spend X amount of dollars on a gas line. But we start with some preliminary pricing. We put together a design to accompany that. Once we're on a final design, we formally price it out at a point that it's ready to sign and contract, and that's the set pricing pending changes or upgrades and so on. We are big on educating our clients on how our installation process is different than our competitors. I hear all day, wow, your quote is twice what I got from so-and-so. Well, how much foundation are they doing? They're not putting separation fabric. They're not putting a proper edge restraint. They're, not taking into account running the gutters underground so that they're not running on your patio. So we do educate our clients with our proposal. We have step-by-step pictures of every installation process for multiple projects. We actually give construction photos of our patio installation, our pool patio installation, and so on. Show you what trenches look like. So we educate you, and you'd be amazed that people will take that and then go ask the other contractor, are you doing this and this? And then they'll come back and say, wow, we thought your quote was high, but we found out that we were not educated about what we should be getting.
All that education that you call, is that at the time presenting the price, or have you already teed it up by part of your sales process is educating the client on what goes into the build of their project?
So part of our sales process at the preliminary meeting is touching on topics of why our installation is different. So if someone asks for, a pool patio, we explain to them we're doing a concrete collar around the pool and overlaying, and that's going to cost more than someone who's not pouring concrete and doing overlay, and so on. So I do make it a point that at our initial meeting, whatever they're asking for, we do walk them through the process. I'll tell them we're digging out 12 inches of soil, we're putting a separation fabric down. I mean, I will pretty much discuss it with them over the course of maybe a minute or two, just to warm them up to, hey, we are educated in how we're building and constructing, and we care about how we're building and constructing, so that you could leave them with that taste of, wow, this person really cares about their projects. And then this way, when they get the actual formal proposal and they have the step-by-step photos of the construction process, it's part of what is like a 30-page packet that we give them with the proposal.
Pages.
Sometimes it's 50.
Do they care to read it all, or it's just a security
when you're putting
blanket?
a few $100,000 in your yard, you're probably not, just signing and going for the most part. You're probably going to read about what the installation process is. Some people don't, but if you're buying a house, you're probably going to look into getting an inspection done to buy that house, and so on. So it's your own due diligence to kind of look into how it's being built. And I make it very clear at the conclusion of our first conversation that we are going to be more expensive than our competitions based on the way we do our installations, based on having, trained and skilled masonry employees on site, based on being reachable at all hours of the day, based on having an office staff full-time of 5 to 6 people. I mean, there's nothing worse than having a question on a project and calling and getting a voicemail and not hearing back till the next day. Can you imagine that? That goes on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Does have.
I mean, another thing is, like, we come to meetings and people say, wow, you're the only person who actually called me back. And I mean, is this industry that busy that we can't call people back?
I don't think it's the busyness.
It's the organization.
It's the organization, exactly. You have to have the structure that allows you to focus on the things that are the priority in the moment. And if you don't have a team around you, or you don't have a structure that enables a team to be able to operate efficiently, then yeah, you're constantly putting out fires instead of doing the things that move the business forward. And that's something that you seem to have.
And I mean, even if you don't have a team, set 2 hours of the day where you block out your schedule to answer all those calls. That's what I did. I mean, I was in middle school and high school. I didn't have help. I was riding a lawnmower and looking at 10 voicemails on my phone while taking a drink break. So you have to, scale it and make sure that you are paying attention to your clients.
You tell clients openly, I'm going to be the most expensive guy, or more expensive than most. What have you seen in terms of pricing over the last few years? Obviously, the pandemic happened. There was a surge in demand. As a result, a lot of people raised their prices dramatically. With the economy being what it's been for the last 6, 12, 18 months, what have you seen as a change in that time frame?
Well, from the COVID time, I mean, we didn't increase our price to make more profit. I wish I could say we did. We increased our price to keep up with the materials and, the cost of labor and cost of operating in general. I mean, COVID had a lot of restraints.
So it wasn't an opportunistic price increase.
It was not.
It was strictly operational.
It was strictly operational. And we increased to the point that, we're making what we need to make to keep everything running, and I can't tell you that the prices come down. I mean, we get people who call us and say, hey, I have your quote from 2019, and it's literally a time and a half to double today. And I look back at those quotes, I'm like, I can't believe we were even charging that much, but times were different, and it was only, unfortunately, a short time ago. You need to know where your prices should be for your company. That's different for everyone, and you need to hold by it, because when you throw the free upgrade for the pavers, you just lost $2,000 because you upgraded them to a premium product for free, and they're happy and you're not, or shouldn't be. So you do need to kind of stick to where your pricing is. I mean, I'd say over the past year, 2 years, of course there are certain contractors who are needing work or wanting the work and looking to undercut you, and there always will be.
With the pricing have gone up so much, and I'm going to kind of come back to my question from before, and the economy looking like what it does right now, have you adjusted your pricing to be quote unquote more competitive, or are you pretty much like, listen, I want to make my 20, 25, 30% margin. I don't know what you're shooting for, but let's say it's that. Have you felt compelled to kind of bend on that, or under that pressure to just secure the business, to keep feeding the machine that is your company?
We believe strongly in maintaining our level of quality, our brand, our communication. So we have not made any cuts in that sense. And don't intend to either, because I would rather the client not do a fire pit and get a premium project with premium service than sacrifice any of that. That's what my company's built on.
So what does a typical project look like for you today?
So 4 to 5 years ago, approximately, when we were majority smaller projects, adult community homes, smaller single-family homes, our projects were anywhere from $7,000 to $25,000 in cost. I mean, I could remember like my biggest adult community project at one point was a $40,000 patio, and I couldn't believe, I was doing such a big project at that time. And now our projects are pretty much at the cost of a house. So, and sometimes beyond that. So we take pride in that, and it's something we're still building, and a lot of it comes down to our process of onboarding and managing the project, and keeping an open mind to what the client wants and what you can offer. I mean, when I meet someone, even if they're not asking for it, I go down a full checklist. Do you want a fire pit? Do you want a pavilion? Do you want a pergola? Do you want a putting green area? Even if I know they didn't discuss any of those topics with me, because chances are you're going to hit on one topic and they're going to say, ooh, you know what? That's cool. A horseshoe court out of Borealis. I mean, whatever, I have a whole checklist of nice to have items to accompany our builds. We offer them to every meeting and discussion, and sometimes it'll add something on, or sometimes we'll just be at where we were called for, which might be something simpler. So that's something that I would say has definitely helped us grow, is coming to someone's house and saying, well, you know what, that's a great spot for a putting green, and that's a great corner for, a fire pit to be detached, and so on. If you just go to your meeting and listen to what the homeowner has to say and what the client has to say and don't give your input, then you're missing out on a lot of the opportunity and design elements. So that's been a way that we've been able to grow, is by showing people, here's what you can have.
Mm-hmm. The thing I just wrote down is that the checklist is ensuring the maximum value for the client. It's keeping you on point and making sure you're not missing any opportunities, which is critical to growing your revenues. But it really does ensure the maximum value for the client, because you're covering all the bases. And if they say no to all those things, that's fine. But at least you didn't leave a potential yes on the table.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. You and I were talking because we met right by the Pave Now, Pay Later booth, and you were telling me how you use a lot of financing. So I wanted to ask you the role that financing has played in growing your business, because a lot of contractors that I talk to, even the ones who sign up for the program, they don't end up using it because they say their clients have the money. And obviously, if today, your average project involves project costs that are equivalent to the value of a house, they have the means to hire you for your services, your design, for your premium quality work, and all the bells and whistles that they want to add. So why is financing even part of your discussion with the client? And I'm not saying this like as a plug for the financing. Like, I genuinely want to know, how are you using it that it's so important for you, and others have it just as like I have it in case I need it.
So I had come across Interbank Finance, which they're out there in a booth right now. I believe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago at this exact showcase here in Valley Forge. They were brand new to the Techo Block, showcase. We were one of the first people who signed up. They didn't even have a means of getting a portal going at the time. I was really frustrated. I waited like 2 months until it really went into motion.
Really wanted it.
Yeah, I really wanted to try it out. It's something that I didn't think about at all, again, until I had seen it here and met them. And every conversation we have and every preliminary meeting we have, at the end of the meeting we discuss, hey, just so you know, we can offer you between $3,500 to $100,000 in finance, 0% for a year, or 1 year same as cash. That's one of the offerings we have. We have a same as cash for 1 year, which means they don't need to pay anything until the 1 year is up, or they can make monthly payments. We have a 5-year option with them. We have a 12-year option with them. Those have interest. Does this cost you, the contractor, out of pocket? Absolutely. It'll cost you between 4 to 6% or somewhere in that range, depending on where interest rates are. However, I make this allusion all the time. If you go to a car dealership, I don't think too many people in here, I don't think many people in the state or the country are going to a car dealership and saying, here's cash, I'm going to pay out 30, 50, 70,000 right off the back for my car. Car dealerships would not be selling cars. Your closing rate will go up significantly if you offer finance. And it's just like you have a credit card processing fee, and some of us choose to pass that on to the client. Some of us choose to absorb that fee. You absorb the fee for the finance. You could build it into your cost. And if you're saying, well, now I'm going to increase my project cost by 6%, well, increase your projects by 3%, and one person's going to use finance and one person's not going to use finance, and it balances out. Or if you want to go to the extent and say, well, if you don't finance, we'll give you a discount. You know, there's different ways of approaching that, but
I like that last option though, because it's kind of like when you go to the car dealership, there's the finance price and then there's the cash price.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, because you could go buy a slice of pizza right now, there's a cash price for a slice of pizza. So if you are in fear of the increase on your projects, because we all know it's hard enough as it is right now to sign the deal because everything's expensive and that's our way of life, offer a 6% discount if you pay by check versus using our finance offering. And I guarantee you that once you sign up for it, you will at least tell yourself by the end of the year, wow, I had 3 or 4 projects that I probably wouldn't have had if I didn't offer that finance. And I have no affiliation to Enterbank or any finance company. I'm just honestly telling you that I can look back to last year and we financed over $500,000 via Enterbank, meaning they provided funding to
$500,000 worth of projects.
$530,000 to our clients or something of that sense. That money would not be in our revenue if we did not use that finance company. 100% can say that. We would have had less projects. We would have had maybe less features on some of our projects. The beauty of Enterbank, it's very simple. You have the client submit an application, it's name, social security, you know, it's like applying for a credit card.
Yep.
And they'll get an instant approval or they'll get a request for more information, and once it's approved, they sign the documents electronically. You go to the portal, you hit request funds, however much, up to 50% of the total loan at a time. The money gets wired directly to your bank account the next day. You're not going and picking up a check and so on, and you're selling more features on your project, you're selling more projects. But I can look back and tell you that we would have not had some of our projects last year or some of the features on our projects had we not offered that. So you can go to your client, just like I do, and say, hey, it was great meeting you. Keep in mind, once you have our quote, we do offer our finance between $3,500 to $100,000, and you have a few competitive options of 0% for a year, 5-year with 7%, 12-year with 9%, and everyone always says, wow, I could do $100,000 for 0% for a year. Well, your finance clients are going to use that money and invest it and make some money over the year and then pay off your Enterbank loan. So again, I'm just going to refer it back to think about if you were going to a car dealership and they weren't offering you finance.
Part and parcel with the conversation, like where do you spend your money, where are you advertising? You have to be aware of what brand have you built, what's the image you're projecting out there. Is it exactly what you want people to perceive? If it's not there yet, then I think it's important that you develop a brand that has the right images, the right messaging, the right logo, the right appearance, so that when people see you, they have the first impression that you want them to have of you. And that's not the company that you are today, it's the company that you aspire to be. Not too far out, because then you can't live up to the expectations, but where you want to be 5 years from now, that's the image you should be putting out there. And that should be constantly evolving to where you want to be 5 years from now, not where you are today. The next thing is having a killer website, because all of your advertising needs to funnel to something. If that website isn't solid, it's like bringing people a store that doesn't have merchandise or a cash register. Okay, so you need a solid website with the ability to capture information and filter customers coming in. So a form, some guys like to put pricing up there, some guys like to put pricing ranges, some guys like to just put a form with like check the things off that you're interested in. So at least you have some part before that screening call that you were talking about, you have some information, you're more informed. You need to have a dialed in sales process, another thing that you talked about. Because if you're going to spend money on pulling things in, you don't want to have that funnel to basically just be full of holes once it starts coming down and it's supposed to go into the bucket. So you need to have a good process where you know, I pick up the phone to call this person back, this is the checklist. These are the questions, these are the things I'm verifying. When I go to meet the customer, this is the stuff we're going through. So it's always the same thing consistently, because then you can actually measure what marketing is working for you. It's not just about the volume of calls coming in, it's are those leads converting into sales? Are those sales the value and the profit that you want? Are they the right type of customer? Because there are good customers and there are bad customers, but they're both customers. There's still money coming in. So you got to be able to have a good, consistent sales process so that you can analyze what you're doing up top. Is this doing what I want it to do, or is it just doing something and it's keeping me busy? After that, analyze the performance of it. Look at the channels. You said Facebook, you said Instagram, you said House. There's a lot of ways you can spend your money. Direct mail, radio, billboards. There's a lot of ways to spend it. So if you don't have those other things first, you're going upstairs to the casino here and you're putting money on black, on red, on this, on that. Something, I'm going to hit something, but you're going to walk out with nothing in your pocket, right? And then finally, the targeting. You said home values. That's one thing. Age of homes as well. There's an episode that I did with an analyst. His name's Todd Tomalak. If you look up that episode, he talks about new home construction, and home sales, but particularly new home construction, homes that are 5 to 7 years or less. Those are the ones that have a 50% greater chance of consuming hardscapes as a result of the age of the home. And the way that homes have been built and delivered over the last decade, they're kind of all shit, we can agree. So what happens is people spend so much on the home. The home is overpriced for what the value is, and it's hard to renovate inside a brand new house that you just built. And the outside, nothing is done. Plus the lots are so small and the homes are so tight together. The best way to maximize the value of the home and create the best comfortable living space for you is to invest outside. Additionally, if you look at the last 5 years, part of the conversation I had with him, he was talking about the recent trend of pregnancies and families being created as a result of people being stuck at home with nothing else to do. So the result of that is they have kids now. The 2 top renovations or investments made in a home after a child is born are kitchen and bath and the backyard. So when we're talking about targeting, looking for homes that have been built in the last 5 to 7 years, looking for resale homes in that price range if that's the type of project that you want to get into, and figuring out where are the communities where families are moving into. And again, families that meet those financial criteria as well, those will give you the highest percentages of homes that are ready to invest in an outdoor living space.
And then also just tracking where your leads are coming from. So we do ask at the start of every call, how did you hear about us, so that you can tell, well, it was a reference from a great client and you're probably going to get that job because it's their friend or their family, or they got it from Facebook or Instagram. And if you're channeling, budget towards a certain avenue of advertising and you're not seeing any return on it, well, put it towards something that's working. Mm-hmm. Radio and billboards for us, don't really do that much.
Yeah, it depends
for
on
a
the
dealer,
areas.
absolutely.
That's right.
Put your billboard up, a mile down the road. But for us,
yeah, and don't sleep on direct mail. That was something that we had Mark Bradley on our panel discussion, our Techo Pro event this November. He was saying it was the biggest things when he was building his company to $50 million a year, and it's one of the biggest things that his most successful customers today are doing, is they have a nice high quality piece and they're hitting the right neighborhoods, but they know what the neighborhoods are because they've done the analysis. They looked at how to target those right areas. Cool? No problem.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Anything else? All right, well, we're going to wrap it up then, guys. Thank you very much for attending this live episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. Justin, thank you very much for coming out and spending some time with us. And until next time, everyone, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next week on the Hardscape Growth Show. And you can check this out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, or wherever you check out your podcasts.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.